A surge of around 2,000 plus migrants pouring into the city, armed burglaries, makeshift tent cities popping up left and right. But here's the kicker. This isn't fiction. It's the reality that is taking place right now in Chicago while you are watching this video. So, what happens when the city known for its welcoming aura collides head-on with a migrant crime nightmare? In recent times, Chicago streets have witnessed a significant surge in migrant populations, especially hailing from Texas. These migrants, seeking refuge or opportunities, have flooded into the city, creating a wave of challenges for both authorities and residents alike. The notable influx from Texas has been remarkable, with buses after buses arriving in Chicago, unloading individuals eager for a fresh start. While many come with genuine intentions of seeking asylum or better livelihoods, a concerning aspect arises from those with criminal intentions. Among the migrant populations, there exists a subset with nefarious motives. These individuals, often ensnared by local gangs, engage in various criminal activities, ranging from petty thefts to armed robberies and even burglaries. Their presence has added an extra layer of complexity to the already strained law enforcement efforts. These migrants with criminal intentions pose a significant challenge to the safety and security of Chicago's residents. The surge in crime, including incidents of violence and property damage, has heightened concerns among the local populace and put additional pressure on law enforcement agencies.
We told you about 3 of those crimes as breaking news yesterday, and now we know 9 happened in the span of just an hour.
Navigating through this surge of migrants requires a delicate balance between providing assistance to those in genuine need while safeguarding the community from individuals with criminal inclinations. As Chicago grapples with this influx, finding effective strategies to address the challenges posed by migrants with criminal intentions remains a pressing priority for city authorities. But what exactly are their criminal tactics? It's not just your usual petty thefts or minor misdemeanors. We're seeing some pretty bold moves from a certain group of migrants, and it's got everyone on edge. First off, let's tackle the tactics. These people aren't just sneaking around and swiping a few items here and there. No, they're going all out, with armed burglaries and home invasions. Think of it like this. Masked intruders storming into homes, wielding weapons, and terrifying innocent residents. It's the stuff of nightmares, and unfortunately, it's become all too real for some Chicagoans. What's even more concerning is the involvement of local gangs and international crime syndicates. These migrants aren't operating solo. They've got backup from some pretty shady people. Local gangs are quick to recruit them, eager to expand their criminal enterprises. And let's not forget about the international players. We're talking about crime syndicates with ties reaching far beyond Chicago's borders. They're pulling the strings behind the scenes, orchestrating these daring thefts and burglaries. So, when you hear about armed burglaries and home invasions in Chicago, it's not just a random occurrence. There's a whole network at play here, with migrants at the forefront and criminal organizations pulling the strings.
Migrants looking for fast cash to get a job can wind up as pawns in a criminal operation.
Many of them caught stealing.
It's a dangerous game they're playing, and unfortunately, it's the innocent residents of Chicago who are paying the price. And people can't help but wonder, what are the authorities doing about all of this? According to sources, the Chicago Police Department is facing an uphill battle. With the surge in crime hitting the city, these people are stretched thin, to say the least. Imagine trying to keep the peace when you've got a never-ending stream of criminal activity coming your way. That's the reality for the Chicago PD right now. From armed robberies to home invasions, they've got their hands full dealing with it all. But here's the thing. Despite the overwhelming odds, they're not backing down. The men and women in blue are out there every day, putting their lives on the line to keep Chicago safe. They're working around the clock to apprehend suspects and put a stop to these crimes. You've got detectives piecing together evidence, patrol officers responding to calls, and SWAT teams ready to spring into action when things get really hairy. They're using every tool in their arsenal, from surveillance cameras to undercover operations, to track down the bad guys and bring them to justice. And let's not forget about the community. Law enforcement isn't in this fight alone. They're partnering with local residents, businesses, and community organizations to tackle crime from all angles. It's a team effort, and everyone's pitching in to make Chicago a safer place. So, while the challenges facing the Chicago Police Department may seem insurmountable at times, they're not giving up without a fight. With determination, teamwork, and a whole lot of grit, they're standing strong in the face of adversity, ready to take on whatever comes their way. On the split side, the government is working on their own ways. We've got Mayor Brandon Johnson. He's got a tough job on his hands trying to navigate through this mess. On one hand, he's got residents who are fed up with the chaos on their streets and demanding action. On the other hand, he's got to balance compassion with pragmatism, ensuring that those in genuine need of help are not left out in the cold.
But there are families here with 2, 3, 4 kids. They are inside and outside. The city has dispatched buses to offer overnight warmth from the sudden winter temperatures.
We need more than the warming buses, but we need to take everything we can get, right?
City leaders have been scrambling for weeks trying to establish so-called base camps, massive military-style winterized tents like these that have already been built in New York.
Then there's the Biden administration. They've been under the microscope when it comes to immigration policy, and the migrant crisis in Chicago is no exception. Some people are looking to them for answers, hoping they'll step in and provide some much-needed support. Others, however, are pointing fingers, accusing them of dropping the ball, and letting the situation spiral out of control. According to insider sources and the Chicago News Department, it's a delicate balance between local and national leadership, with tensions running high on both sides. Everyone's got their own ideas about how to handle the migrant crisis, and nobody seems to agree on the best course of action. But here's the thing. Through all the political posturing and the finger-pointing, there are real people's lives at stake.
We don't want to have to recall anybody. We don't want to have to protest anybody, but we are not going to be ignored, Brandon. Mayor Johnson.
Chicagoans are feeling the impact of the migrant chaos in their neighborhoods, and they're looking to their leaders for solutions. There's no easy fix. It's going to take cooperation, compromise, and a whole lot of hard work to find a way forward. And in the meantime, Chicagoans are left holding their breath, hopeful that their leaders will rise to the challenge and bring some much-needed relief to their city. And the public is not so happy about all of this. It's tense, to say the least, and people are not holding back when it comes to expressing their frustration. First off, there's a sense of resentment boiling up among Chicagoans towards their local and national leaders. People are fed up with the chaos in their neighborhoods, and they're looking for someone to blame. Mayor Brandon Johnson and the Biden administration are bearing the brunt of this anger, with residents accusing them of dropping the ball and failing to address the migrant crisis effectively. People are posting on social media platforms ready to cancel Biden and his ideas about dealing with the situation, with posts like, "Say no to Biden," and "Cancel Biden and his not-so-actionable plans." But it's not just anger simmering beneath the surface. It's boiling over into demonstrations and calls for action. Anti-migrant protests have been popping up across the city, with residents taking to the streets to voice their opposition to the influx of migrants. They're demanding answers from their leaders and calling for immediate action to restore order and safety in their communities. These demonstrations aren't just about venting frustrations. They're a cry for help from Chicagoans who feel like they've been left to fend for themselves. They want their voices heard, and they want action taken to address the issues plaguing their city. As the protests rage on and the calls for action grow louder, the people of Chicago are not backing down. They're standing up for their neighborhoods, their safety, and their city, and they're not going to stop until they see real change. But will they be able to handle the financial burden till then? Did you know that around $7 million is being poured into managing the migrant crisis in Chicago? It's no secret that dealing with this situation is costing a pretty penny, and people are starting to ask some tough questions about where all that cash is going. Since the surge in migrant arrivals began, the city has been shelling out millions upon millions of dollars to tackle the various challenges that come with it. From housing and healthcare to law enforcement and public services, the expenses just keep piling up. Here's where things get tricky. With all this money being thrown around, some people are starting to wonder whether it's being allocated in the best way possible. There's been a lot of debate over how taxpayer funds should be spent, and whether they're being used effectively to address the migrant crisis. On one side of the argument, you've got people who believe that every penny should be poured into managing the influx of migrants. After all, it's a crisis that needs immediate attention. But on the other side, you've got people who are concerned about the impact on essential services, like education, healthcare, and infrastructure. These debates are heating up as the financial burden of the migrant crisis continues to mount. With taxpayers footing the bill, there's a growing sense of urgency to ensure that their hard-earned money is being put to good use. As the discussions rage on and the dollars keep flowing, the financial burden of the migrant crisis is no small matter. It's a complex issue that requires careful consideration and thoughtful decision-making to ensure that resources are allocated in a way that benefits everyone. Tents popping up in parks, on sidewalks, and even under highway overpasses. That's the reality in Chicago right now, as the city grapples with a surge in migrants and a shortage of affordable housing. These tent cities and makeshift shelters have become a common sight across the city, providing temporary refuge for those who have nowhere else to go. But while they may offer a roof over people's heads, they come with their own set of challenges. These makeshift shelters are often crowded and unsanitary, posing health risks for both residents and the surrounding community. Fires, thefts, and other crimes are also a concern, with limited security measures in place to keep people safe. Then there's the impact on city infrastructure. Tents and makeshift shelters are not exactly built to last, and they can put a strain on public resources like water, sanitation, and waste management. Not to mention the strain on emergency services, as first responders are called in to deal with issues that arise in these makeshift communities. But perhaps the biggest concern is the long-term implications of these tent cities and makeshift shelters. They're a band-aid solution at best, offering temporary relief without addressing the root causes of homelessness and housing insecurity. While these shelters may provide a temporary reprieve for those in need, they're not a sustainable solution in the long run. As Chicago grapples with the challenges posed by tent cities and makeshift shelters, it's clear that more needs to be done to address the underlying issues of housing affordability and homelessness in the city. Let's zoom out for a moment and take a look at the bigger picture, because the migrant crisis in Chicago isn't just a local issue. It's got national implications that are sparking some serious policy debates.
You have to feel strongly about something to come out and march on a day like this, but that's certainly true of those celebrating May Day here in Chicago by demanding immigration reform.
Which brings us to the whole idea of immigration. The surge in migrant arrivals has reignited the debate over immigration policy in the United States. People on both sides of the political aisle are weighing in, with some calling for stricter border controls and others advocating for more compassionate immigration policies. Then there's the question of federal versus local responsibilities. Who should be in charge of managing the migrant crisis? The federal government or local authorities? It's a sticky issue, with both sides arguing over who has the authority and resources to address the challenges at hand. And let's not forget about border control. The influx of migrants has raised concerns about border security and the need for stronger enforcement measures. But at the same time, there are calls for more humane treatment of migrants and a focus on addressing the root causes of migration. These policy debates are playing out on the national stage, with lawmakers, activists, and experts weighing in on the best way forward. It's a complex issue with no easy answers, and the stakes are high for both migrants and the communities they're arriving in. As the debates rage on and the migrant crisis continues to unfold, one thing's for sure: there's a lot at stake, and finding a solution won't be easy. But by engaging in thoughtful, informed discussions and working together to find common ground, we can hopefully find a path forward that ensures the safety and well-being of all involved. But have any actual solutions been put on the table is the real question. Mayor Brandon Johnson has got a tough job on his hands trying to navigate through this mess. From day one, he's been faced with the daunting task of balancing compassion with pragmatism, ensuring that those in genuine need of help are not left out in the cold. Some people praise his approach, commending him for addressing the crisis with compassion. Others, however, criticize him for being too hesitant and permissive, questioning whether he's doing enough to keep Chicago safe. Then there's the Biden administration. They've been under the microscope when it comes to immigration policy, and the migrant chaos in Chicago is no exception. Some people are looking to them for answers, hoping they'll step in and provide some much-needed support. Others, however, are pointing fingers, accusing them of dropping the ball and letting the situation spiral out of control. But enough about the leaders, let's talk solutions. Because at the end of the day, that's what we need to focus on if we want to restore order in Chicago streets. One proposed solution is to tighten border controls and enforce immigration laws more strictly. By cracking down on illegal immigration, proponents argue we can reduce the flow of migrants into Chicago and alleviate some of the pressure on local resources. Another proposed solution is to invest more resources into addressing the root causes of migration. By addressing issues like poverty, violence, and political instability in migrants' home countries, we can reduce the need for them to flee in the first place. And let's not forget about community-based solutions. By working together with local residents, businesses, and community organizations, we can develop tailored approaches to address the specific challenges facing different neighborhoods in Chicago. So as we look to the future, one thing's for sure. It's going to take strong leadership, innovative thinking, and collaboration from all stakeholders to find solutions and restore order in Chicago streets. But with determination and a shared commitment to the well-being of our city, we can overcome the crisis and build a brighter future for all Chicagoans. So, what are your thoughts on this? Let us know in the comments below.